Here are players that added in free agency heading into week 8 of fantasy football, starting out at quarterback. These are all percent rostered in Yahoo leagues. Quarterbacks, Jackson Dart, 42% rostered. He has been a strong quarterback one in each of his 4 weeks coming back. His first game as a starter against the Chargers wasn't great, but the last 3 weeks, he has been getting it done. At least 54 yards in his first 3 games. In the game against Denver, only 11 yards rushing, but he threw for 283, 3 touchdowns, and a touchdown on the ground. Denver was a matchup he should have struggled in, yet he came through. Jackson Dart is definitely playing like a top 12 fantasy quarterback. Get him on your roster. Sam Darnold hasn't played in week 7 yet, but he's 48% rostered. But he has been coming in playing well. Multiple touchdowns in 4 of 5 games. He comes into week 7 averaging 320 or so yards passing. He has been a revelation. So again, regardless of the outcome of his Monday night game, Sam Darnold is somebody you definitely want to cover you in the bye weeks. Next, Joe Flacco's 11% rostered. Flacco against Green Bay in week 6 threw 2 touchdown passes when he was with the team like 4 or 5 days. Then he played Pittsburgh on another short week, shredded Pittsburgh, 342 and 2 touchdowns. Here's why. He's in the shotgun. Basically, the rush can't get to him. He's got Chase. He's got Higgins. He's a veteran. He knows how to get the ball out quickly. Those 2 receivers will carry him. That defensive force him in shootouts. Joe Flacco may not run much, but he's viable for fantasy. All right, desperation time. Marcus Mariota. We saw Jaden Daniels leave the week 7 game with a hamstring injury. If he misses time, Mariota's a mobile quarterback. Jacoby Brissett probably loses his job back to Kyler Murray after the next week when Murray should be back from a foot injury. But Jacoby Brissett has been really strong for the Cardinals. And if that foot isn't 100% on Murray, maybe Brissett gets one more start. You might want to use him. Tyrod Taylor. Well, Justin Fields got benched again. Taylor didn't play great, but there could be a long-term change because Justin Fields is completely out of his depth. Tyrod Taylor can move the team in somewhat of an effective way. Tyrod Taylor is a speculative ad in your super flex leagues. And then Kenny Pickett's another super flex ad. Kenny Pickett came in for the Raiders in a blowout loss is the only reason he came in. But we have seen Geno Smith be so bad that the Raiders may have no choice other than to give Pickett a shot. Let's move to running back. Tyjae Spears is 29% rosters. He is splitting that backfield almost identically with Tony Pollard. Week 6, we saw 5 carries and 4 catches. Week 7 against New England, 5 rushes and 3 catches. PPR, he's getting you 7-8 points in a game, maybe a little more. You might need help, but PPR wise, Tyjae Spears is very useful. Kyle Monangai, Chicago Bears, 7% rostered. Monangai was getting 4 to 7 rush attempts per game from week 2 through week 6. And then all of a sudden in the game against New Orleans, 13 carries, 81 yards and a touchdown. It wasn't all work when the game was out of control. Monangai was getting work early. Obviously, DeAndre was playing really well, but if Chicago is going to play with leads, I think they want to use both running backs. So get a hold on Kyle Monangai and see. Brashard Smith, Kansas City Chief, is 1% rostered. What you need to know about Smith is in the last 4 games, he's averaging 4 targets. And that Kansas City passing attack is going to open up, in the use of a running back on those underneath plays, that could bear fruit. Now, he's not going to be a high upside guy, but if you need a PPR play, the 14 carries Smith had in week 7 were due to the blowout against the Raiders, but the receptions have been there for about a month. So in a PPR league, you might look at him. Bam Knight is 22% rostered, Arizona Cardinals. So Bam Knight played 51% of the snaps in week 6, 11 carries and a target. Against Green Bay, 14 carries, 3 targets. Not a high ceiling guy unless he falls in the end zone. He'll get you some ceiling, but a floor and you need a running back, he is still widely available. Next, Tyler Algier, Atlanta Falcons, 39% rosters. During this recording, his game is actually going on. But what you need to know about Algier, he tends to play better in home games when you see Atlanta often playing with a lead. He has been very solid in his home games, getting multiple carries. Scored touchdowns his last 2 home games. So if that's what you need him for, you might use him in those home games. Other desperation plays. Jerome Ford, 17% rostered, and only pick him up in the chance that one of these running back needy teams trades the Browns for him. Browns are going with a full youth movement. Ford could stumble into a more advantageous job. Isaiah Davis, 4% rostered. Same deal. If we see Breece Hall get traded, Isaiah Davis may be the only game in town for the Jets. Bashal Tutin's 40% rostered, and he's getting 5-ish touches a game, which isn't much. But let's say, hey, you never know. Maybe Jacksonville deals Travis Etienne. I doubt they do, but if they do, Tutin would move into significant work. Devin Neal, New Orleans. We saw an injury to Kendre Miller's knee. Neal could move into that number 2 role behind Kamara. And again, the same story. If they say they won't deal Kamara, but if they do, Neal could walk into a starting job if Miller misses time. All right, if you're enjoying this breakdown, take a second, hit like and subscribe. It helps us keep the fantasy advice coming your way. If you want even more of RotoWire's tools, rankings, and insights, we got a 15% discount just for our YouTube viewers. You go to rotowire.com, you choose that subscription, use the code YouTube15 at checkout. All right, wide receivers. Nobody likes Rashad Bateman, 22% rostered, but you should like Rashad Bateman. Yes, last year was great. This year's horrible. Here's the whole point. The Ravens will get back fullback Patrick Ricard. They'll get back their quarterback Lamar Jackson. When Ricard is on the field, defenses have to play them with a lot of bodies closer to the line. That's why Bateman went off last year, because the downfield passes were there all day, every day for Lamar. We will see that version of the offense coming out of the bye. Get Bateman now, because he's going to have a great second half, and nobody sees it coming. Kayshon Boutte is 6% rostered, only 2 catches, but 55 yards and a touchdown against Tennessee. The problem is targets. He has, in all but 2 games, he has 3 or fewer targets, and because of that, he doesn't have good stats, but he has scored touchdowns in 3 of 7 games. Week 1, he had 100 yards. Week 6, he had 93 yards. If they ever decide to start throwing him the football, he is an outstanding player, and you never know. That could happen soon. If you could stash him, stash him. Shamir DK, Tennessee Titans, 1% rostered. Calvin Ridley was out with an injury. DK against New England goes 4 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Very talented young man. If Ridley misses more time, if they deal Ridley, DK could be a very useful fantasy football option. Trey Tucker, Las Vegas Raiders, 50% rostered. He had the one huge ceiling game in week 3, but otherwise in most weeks, he's flirting with 8 to 12 PPR points. He has a bit of a floor. And if Jacoby Myers, again, a player who was out this week, could be dealt, could see him in a bigger role. Alec Pierce, Indianapolis Colts, 9% rostered. Week 6, he came back from an injury, 2 for 48, not great. Week 7 against the Chargers, leads the team with 98 receiving yards and 5 catches. He has been an integral part of the offense all year. He's not a great ceiling guy, but he definitely is a floor play who has a real role in that Indy offense. Xavier Lee gets 6% rostered, who had a big game this week. Jalen Coker, 15%. The reason I endorsed them, Bryce Young hurt his ankle. If he misses time and Andy Dalton is the quarterback, we could see that passing game get boosted numbers. If that happens, Leggett and Coker are much more live than they are with Bryce Young. 1% roster, Jack Besh. Again, if Jacoby Myers gets dealt, and the Raiders maybe go to Kenny Pickett at quarterback, Jack Besh could be part of their new solution. Malik Washington, Miami Dolphins, 3% rostered, typically gets a good number of targets. Again, we'll see what they're going to do with their quarterback situation, their coaching situation after a horrible loss to Cleveland. But again, bottom of the bench, PPR, floor play. Tight ends, Oronde Gadsden, 3% rostered, goes for 7 catches, 164 yards and a touchdown against the Colts. Game of all games. Now Gadsden at 68 yards on 7 catches against Miami. Week 3, he even had a 46-yard game. He is the real deal, and he will probably keep seeing more tight end snaps. And I know there's a lot of players on the Chargers. You got McConkey, you got Keenan Allen, you got Quentin Johnson, but the genie might be out of the bottle. Roster Gadsden, and he could be a starting tight end if he continues this anywhere near the level he's shown us, but he is a talent. Juwan Johnson, 30% rostered. First 2 weeks, for 3 weeks were great. He disappeared for 3 weeks, came back with a 79-yard game against Chicago. If you need to stream him, might be there for you. Maybe it was just a little cold spell. Noah Fant, 1% rostered. If Mike Gesicki, who's on IR, it's at least 4 weeks, and maybe he misses longer. But in the last game, Noah Fant had 4 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown with Joe Flacco. That might work because he might be their slot receiver.